योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम् गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम. So we are at Sutra 2.32 Shaucha Santosha Tapaswadhyayeshwara Pranidhanani Niyamaha. So among the niyamas listed here, we have already seen Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaswadhyaya. And we have looked at Vyasa's commentary on the same. So now today we'll continue and we'll look at last in the list, which is Ishvara Pranidhanam. Now this Ishvara Pranidhanam is somewhat unique and very special, because if you see, it has come up in the first chapter, which dealt primarily with the Uttamadhikari, the highest of the highest rung of the yogis. Then again, there it came as Ishvara Pranidhanatva, where the Ishvara was introduced. And that was brought in the context of the Samadhi, the Asampragnata Samadhi, being close at hand, Asannaha. To whom? To the Tivra Samvegis. Now the Tivra Samvegi, if you remember, is a very difficult state. It is the highest of the highest caliber of even among the Uttamadhikari yogis. And we saw that Asampragnata Samadhi was close at hand only for them. And then the question was asked, okay, but is there any other way? And then came the sutra, Ishvara Pranidhanatva, which means, or through Ishvara Pranidhanam also, that level of Samadhi can be close at hand. So that was where we saw Ishvara Pranidhanam in the first chapter. And then we talked about Ishvara, and there were quite a few very interesting sessions on the sutras there. Then, at the beginning of the second chapter, when the context was the Madhyamadhikari and the Kriya Yoga, again we saw Ishvara Pranidhanam coming, Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanam, these three in the context of Kriya Yoga. And there again we dealt with Ishvara Pranidhanam. And now, in the context of Ashtanga Yoga, and in the context of the Adhamadhikari that is going on now, we see Ishvara Pranidhanam coming again in the context of Niyamas. And we have seen among the Vidhi Nisheda, Niyamas are more oriented towards Vidhi. Vidhi Nisheda refer to do's and don'ts, and the Niyamas are more about do's. And there the Ishvara Pranidhanam once again is coming in. So the same concept, same notion of Ishvara Pranidhanam is applicable to all rangs of yogis, though of course the caliber, the interpretation and the practice of Ishvara Pranidhanam will have its own flavor for each of these rungs of people on the path of yoga. And that is something to bear in mind. So about Ishvara Pranidhanam, here Vyasa says, Ishvara Pranidhanam Tasmin Paramagurau Sarva Karmarpanam. So it is Sarva Karmarpanam, the surrender of all karmas, the offering of all karmas, of all actions. To whom? Tasmin Paramagurau. To that Paramaguru. Again, we had seen in the first chapter, Ishvara was characterized as Saesha Purvesham api Guruhu Kalena Anavachchedat. So And there we had discussed how the Guru Parampara holds a special place in the Indian tradition, and how in several Shastras, Upanishads, Puranas, and so on, there are dedicated sections that provide the lineage of the Gurus. And then Ishvara was characterized as the Paramaguru, the Guru of all the Gurus. And then Guru holds a very exalted place. And then Ishvara, by being characterized as a Paramaguru, to any student of the Shastras, there is an immediate recognition, more than, let's say, power, Aishwarya, omnipresence, omniscience, and so on. The Paramaguru characterization holds a special place in the hearts of the disciples of the Shastras. So, Tasmin Paramaguru, to that Paramaguru, Sarva Karmarpanam. Now, we had seen earlier also where there is Sarva Karmarpanam and Tatphala Sanyasaha. So, the Arpanam of all karmas, where it says, Naham Karta Sarvametad Brahmaiva Kurute Tatha Etad Brahmarpanam Proktam Rishibhis Tattvadarshibhihi. So, the Karma Arpanam is of the nature of Naham Karta. I am not the doer. Sarvametad Brahmaiva Kurute Tatha. All of this is done by Brahman, the Ishvara, the Paramatattva. And this is known as Etad Brahmarpanam Proktam. This is known as Brahmarpanam by the Rishis, Rishibhis, Tattvadarshibhihi, by those who know the Tattvas. Then there is the Phala Sanyasaha, where it says, Yadva Phalanam Sanyasam Prakuryat Parameshware Karmanam Etadapi Ahu Brahmarpanam Anuttamam. So there is a different type of Karmanam Arpanam, which is of the nature of Phalanam Sanyasaha. So Naham Karta is one approach which is tinged with a lot of Jnanam and the knowledge of the Purusha Tattva. I am not the doer. The other aspect, which is more has the shade of Karma Yoga, says all the phala, all the fruits of my action, I offer to the Parameshwara. And that is also Karmarpanam. And here Vyasa, when he says Ishvara Pranidhanam Tasmin Paramagurau Sarva Karmarpanam, encompasses both these aspects when he says that. Now, Vyasa continues this, or he says, Shayyasanastho athapati vrajanva swastha parikshina vitarkajalaha samsara bija kshayamikshamanaha syad nityamukto amrita bhoga bhagi. So once again, Shayyasanastho athapati vrajanva swastha parikshina vitarkajalaha samsara bija kshayamikshamanaha Syad Nityamukto Amrita Bhoga Bhagi. So here it says a person, whether he is sitting on his shayya, on his seat or sofa, Shayyasanastha va Pathivrajan va, or he is going on the road, let's say on his way. One who is Atmanishtha and Parikshina Vitarkajalaha. So who is Swastha? Now Swastha is a very interesting word. It is also used in the context of mundane health. Are you healthy? Are you Swastha? But the Swastha means Swasmin Sthitaha, it is Swastha, who resides in himself, who has the aspect of Swarupa. So one who is in that sense Atmanishtha. So one who is Swastha and Parikshina Vitarkajalaha, whose Vitarkajala has faded away. Vitarkajala is about a lot of complicated reasoning and logic, which often leads to questions and doubts and confusion. So that is referred to as Vitarkajala. by thinking, reasoning, cause and effect, and so on, one weaves a web and confuses himself within it. Now, this kind of web, this vitarka jala, is parikshina, has faded away, and the person is swastha, he is atmanishtha. Now, for him, now samsara bija kshayam ikshamanaha. One ikshamana means one who is seeing, one who is observing, noticing, or one who is in a state where he is able to experience what? Samsara bija kshayam. The seed of the samsara, which is samsara bija, the kshaya, again the fading away, going away of that seed, the destruction of that seed. So the samsara bija, as we have seen, is avidya. So this has a reference to avidya. So samsara bija kshayam ikshamanaha. So one who is seeing that, syat, he would be nityamuktaha, always free, with no bondage. He is nityamukta and amrita bhoga bhagi. So who he has the bhoga of amrita. He is free from the cycle of birth and death. So here, this is the context which Vyasa is putting in by quoting from Vishnu Puranam when he says this. So this person, at all the time, because of the practice of yamas and niyamas and his understanding, in any state of living, he is completely mukta because of his nature. And then Vyasa says, yatra ida muktam, also it is said. By now Vyasa is referring again back to the Sutrakara, to Patanjali. He says, referring to a previous sutra, he says, tataha pratyakchetanadikamo apyantaraya bhavascha. Again, this will remind us about the first chapter where it says, by this Ishvara Pranidhana and by the grace of the Ishvara, what happens? There is a pratyak chetanadikamaha. So there is a realization of the pratyak chetana, of his own self, of the of his own atma, of his individual purusha. Pratyak chetana adhigamaha. Adhigamaha means praptihi, obtaining. And then antaraya bhavascha. So if you remember, this opened out the section on antarayas. And antarayas are obstacles to the uttamadhikari, the highest rung of the yogis, from attainment of samadhi. And we had seen vyadis, dhyana, etc., all the antarayas. So that antaraya abhava, the going away, the absence of these obstacles or the antarayas, is what was referred to. This is something Vyasa is reminding us in this context. So this Sarvakarma Arpanam and Ishvara Pranidhanam has come up in several places, in Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere, of course. There is also one nice quotation from the Kurma Puranam where it says, Kamato akamato vapi yat karomi shubhashubham tat sarvam tvai sanyastam tat prayuktak karomyaham naham karta sarvam etat brahmaiva kurute tata etat brahmarpanam proktam rishibhis tattvadarshibhi. So whatever I am doing, whether out of desire or without desire, whether shubha or ashubha, everything I surrender and offer to you, O Ishvara. So that is the bhava that comes behind Ishvara Pranidhanam. And this also tells us how the whole Yama Niyama and Ashtanga Yoga scheme encompasses all the various margas, whether the Karma Marga, Jnana Marga, Bhakti Marga, all of this is included in this path of yoga. And we have also seen in the context of Viveka Khyati Aviplava, where the final mukti, moksha, is subsequent only to Viveka Khyati with the 7 Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. So there we saw Jnana. We have seen karma being in several contexts, the niyata karma and nitya karma, naimitika karma and so on. Then In Ishwaram Pranidhanam, we are seeing both Bhakti and Karma Yoga aspects coming in. So, this is about the Sutra 2.32 with Vyasa's commentary.
So the Ishwar Pranidhanam is being mentioned as the fifth of the Niyama. And as you just now heard, Ishwar Pranidhan has come for Uttamadhikari, Ishwar Pranidhan has come for Madhyamadhikari, Ishwar Pranidhan has come Adhamadhikari. This is a point to be noted, that Patanjali is dealing with three hierarchies of practitioners: the lowest, the lower one, the middle one, the higher one. The supreme one, the middle one, and the lower one. And everywhere, Ishwara Pranidhan has come as means. And this is making worth the note of. It obviously means that Ishwara Pranidhan is complete means of yoga. Because if you look at the effect of this Ishwara Pranidhan, which has come in Niyama, Patanjali says Samadhi Siddhi Ishwar Pranidhanat. Samadhi Siddhi means up to Samadhi everything. These are the meaning has to be taken. It's not that you will get only Samadhi. The whole yoga, because Samadhi is the last step in yoga, last stage in yoga, final stage in Ashtanga yoga. So when he says Samadhi is attained by Ishwar Pranidhana, everything up to Samadhi is deemed to be attained by Ishwara Pranidhana. So it is a complete, wholesome means. So to somewhere understand the ethos of classical yoga, this point has to be underlined. That it is not an alternative where sometimes theoretical minded people deem to take that way, because Ishwara Pranidhana Dva was mentioned in the first chapter, or Ishwara Pranidhana. But it is clear when you go through the entire topic of Ishwara, which has come in the text, and when particularly this Niyama, where Ishwara Pranidhana is said to be giving you accomplishment in yoga, that is Samadhi Siddhi, meaning Yoga Siddhi. Yoga Siddhi meaning everything until the final stage of yoga. So it is not an alternative, means as might be taken to the theoretical mind, but it is complete, wholesome means of yoga. Now, in Niyamanga, Ishwara Pranidhana has come. So what the point to be noted is that this is for Adhamadhikari. In Patanjali's classification, it is Adhamadhikari. Ishwara Pranidhana has also come to Madhyamadhikari and Uttamadhikari. So, what is the concept of Ishwara? The concept of Ishwara doesn't change. And Pranidhana means, in simple words, Bhakti. Ishwara Bhakti is Ishwara Pranidhana. Bhakti in Ishwara is Ishwara Pranidhana. Bhakti of Ishwara is Ishwara Pranidhana. So, Ishwara Pranidhana, we are not familiar with the word Pranidhana. But common man is aware of something called as Bhakti. So, it is Bhakti. The form of Bhakti, however, will change. Even idea and notion about Ishwara will change. What is idea and notion about for just a theistic person, just believing in God? What is his idea of God? What is his idea of Ishwara, who is just believing in God? But then, one will climb up the rungs, so it's not only belief in God, but it becomes much more. The belief is of such a kind that you start loving the Ishwara. You start developing love for Ishwara. And love for Ishwara is called Bhakti. We know the emotion of love. So, when the love is directed towards, or when the love is with respect to Ishwara, that love is called Bhakti. Because Bhakti is parama prema rupa, according to a definition in Bhakti Sutra. It is a parama prema, supreme form of love is called bhakti. Supreme form of love will not come for you for any other thing, any other person. That won't be supreme love. You loving your spouse, you loving your beloved, you loving your parents will not be supreme kind of love. The supreme kind of love will only occur between you and divinity. And that is parama prema. The supreme love is only possible between mortal and immortal divinity. And that is called bhakti. Then it becomes bhakti. Your love to your friend doesn't become bhakti. Your love to your spouse, beloved, doesn't become bhakti. It remains as love. But when the same love is with regards to Ishvara, it becomes bhakti. So the point is that one should understand what is bhakti. And bhakti is always with respect to Ishvara. Now Ishvara is said to be Paramaguru. Ishvara is said to be Paramaguru, that means Ishvara is a guru. Then this kind of love can be also towards one who is considered to be your guru in Adhyatma. So Guru Bhakti also is possible. If your father is Guru Tulya, if your mother is Guru Tulya, then you will also have bhakti towards your father and your mother. Otherwise, you will be having just prema for your father, prema for your mother. The prema has so many bhavas. So, the psychology of love is important to be understood here. It comes in various forms. I love it. I like it. So, from there, I revere it. I revere someone. So, it has so many forms, starting from love to reverence to be adoring. So, there are various forms of love which depend upon the two entities, the lover and the loved. So, that's how to understand really bhakti, we need to understand bhakti psychology. Anyway, that is not necessary to be going into here right now. Now, understand here that Ishvara, what is the notion of Ishvara for you and me? And what is the notion or idea or concept of Ishvara for someone who is Gnaneshwar, someone who is Tukaram, someone who is Tyagraj, or someone who is Mirabai, someone who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, someone who is Vyasa, Vasishtha. So what is the idea and notion of Ishvara? There will be a big difference, significant difference between what the God is for you and me, or what the divinity is for you and me, and what the divinity is for those on little higher rung or greatly on higher pedestal of consciousness, such as Gnaneshwar, Tukaram, Eknath, Ramdas, or perhaps Prahlada, Narada, Parashara, Pundarika, Vyasa, Ambarisha, Shuka, Shaunaka, Bhishma, Dalbya, Rukmangada, Vasishtha, Vibhishana, Adi. There is a wonderful long list of bhaktas, because when we have to go for bhakti, the first step is called Vidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti. In Vaidhi Bhakti, we must idealize someone as a bhakta. So these are various kinds of bhaktas: Prahlada, Narada, Parashara, Pundarika, Vyasa, Ambarisha, Shuka, Shaunaka, Bhishma, Dalbya, Vasishtha, Vibhishana, and then countless, Gyaneshwar, Tukaram, Ramdas. So we will develop a kind of greater affiliation or affinity for a particular kind of bhakta. The bhakti of Narada and bhakti of Arjuna was different. How was but Arjuna as a Bhakta of Bhagavan and how Narada was Bhakta of Bhagavan are two different ways. So we will opt for someone who is more appealing to us. Whether Tukaram as Bhakta is more idealized by us or Sri Ramdas as Bhakta is idealized by us, it depends upon person to person. So we will try to emulate their bhakti. We will try to know what was the kind of bhakti which Ramdas had, Tukaram had, Gyaneshwar had, Tyagaraja had, Mirabai had, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had, Surdas had, Purandardas had, Tulsidas had. There are so many bhaktas about which we need to be knowing something. If you want to really know what is bhakti, we are told in Shastra of Bhakti that try to understand various bhaktas. And then they have different kind of bhakti. This comes in Srimad Bhagavatam called Navavidha Bhakti. Smaranam, Kirtanam. From there are 9 kinds of bhakti and 9 kinds of bhaktas. So we must try to understand which kind of bhakta is more appealing. So when you get up in the morning, we have something called Prata Smaranam. So when you are in particular act, if you are going to really embrace Ishwara Pranidhana, you should know which bhakta is ideal for you for particular act. And therefore we must look into lives of various bhaktas to understand Pranidhana. And this is what the Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Marga, Bhakti Shastra tells us. That we must know various kinds of bhaktas, how their devotion was, how you will express your love for God when you get up in the morning. How will you remember God when you are going for your bath? So, you just now heard, Shayya Samastho Pati Vrajanva Swastaha. Various, we might be sitting, standing, walking, talking, moving. This is how our life is. Now, what kind of bhakta would be more suitable for us to be adhering to that bhakti? And therefore, to remember divinity in every kind of act that we are in is suggested in this Ishwara Pranidhanam when he says Sarva Karmarpanam to Ishwara. So we have different kinds of karmas. And therefore we have different facets of divinity. Even one deity like say Sri Krishna, Gopal Krishna, Yogeshwara Krishna. And we know that Krishna has manifested in several ways. Gopi Krishna, Gopala Krishna, Mullidhara Krishna. So we will have appeal for different forms of Krishna because of different mindset that we have. When we like somewhere Yogeshwara Krishna, then Gopala Krishna will go to background. Or Mullidhara Krishna will go to background. That's why this question, why one deity has several names, why one deity has several forms. So it is because of appeal. What appeals you is more important. Because unless you have appeal, you will not have this inclination to remember divinity and offer your karmas to divinity. So one Narayana manifests in several ways. So Krishnarpanamastu is a process, but Krishna manifests in several ways. So in different actions, you will have a different figure of Krishna in your mind, influence of Krishna in your mind to offer. Narayanarpanamastu. Narayana has taken several forms. Dashavataras and 24 avatars. So we are supposed to know about these things to really understand what is pranidhanam. The 24 avatars of Bhakti, Vishnu, which comes in Vishnu, Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Dashavataras, all of us know. Then in one avatara, the deity has positioned or projected itself in different ways. Say for instance, Sri Rama projection to Bharata, Sri Rama projection to Lakshmana, Sri Rama projection to Sugriva, etc. So Sri Rama projected himself differently, and he was appealing to everyone, from Bharata to Shabari. So we need to know about Bhagavad Leela to really be falling in love with divinity. We just can't love divinity. It is because of Bhagavad Leela. So how Bhagwan appears? Sri Krishna appeared for so many of his devotees, so that they could have appeal. And unless it is appealing, you will not have bhakti. Unless you have appeal, you won't have love. Can you say something, I have no appeal for this, but I love it? In psychology, it is not a valid statement. So to be loving, there must be appeal. So, in order that Ishvara is appealing, we must become aware of the Ishvara Leela, how Ishvara has manifested in several forms, in several ways. Therefore, in various acts, lying on the bed, sitting somewhere, or walking, moving, doing some work, even if it's an act of business activity of life, we are doing some work. How can we have appeal to divinity so that we have connection with the divinity while we are in that act? And with that, we will get the state called swastha. So when, say for instance, Sri Rama comes in both Avyaktoupasana and Vyaktoupasana, Sagunopasana and Nirgunopasana. The other deities will not come like that. But about Sri Rama, this is the speciality about Sri Rama Avatara, or very entity of Sri Rama. So how is the Nirguna Bhakti possible for Sri Rama? So Kabir, as a Nirguna Bhakta, was not considering as Dasharathi, as Sitapati, as Lakshmana Anugraja. So what was Rama? Rama is Atma Rama. So these are the words in Adhyatma and metaphysics. Atma Rama, Antara Rama. And therefore, with respect to Rama, you will find both kinds of bhaktas. At one and the same time, or in same time, contemporaries rather, were Kabir and Tulsidas. Tulsidas was Saguna Rama Bhakta and Kabir was Nirguna Rama Bhakta. Because Rama means Antara Rama. Rama means Atma Rama. We go closer to ourselves when we remember Ishvara. If you remember an object that you love or a person that you love, you are not taken to your swasthavastha. You don't go closer to yourself. But just the Nama of Ishvara, Smaranam of Ishvara will take you closer to yourself. That's why the word swastha has come in there. Because divinity is such an entity that it is within you. So when we think of God, we go closer to self. When I think of my beloved thing, I go away from myself. If I think of my beloved person, I go away from myself. But if I think of divinity, so that's a metaphysical and mysterious aspect that He is our Antaryami. And therefore, when we think of God, we go closer to self. When we remember God, we go closer to self. When we have Ishvara Nama in our mind, we go closer to self. Bhagavad Nama takes closer to self. Bhagavad Kirtanam takes closer to self. It's not that we are going closer to Bhagwan in Bhagavad Kirtana. It takes you towards yourself. That's the mysticism of Adhyatma. So anyway, the concept of Ishvara, idea of Ishvara, is again flexible. Because what Ishvara is for you and me, and what Ishvara is for Jnaneshwars, what Ishvara is for Vasishtha Vyasadi Prabhutis, what Ishvara was to Prahlada and Narada, Ambarisha, etc. Bhaktas, or Surdas, Namdev, Eknath, Tyagraj. So, if that is changing, Pranidhana also changes. The way the bhakti was Narada to Bhagavan, Arjuna to Bhagavan, Prahlada to Bhagavan, Namdev to Bhagavan, Eknath to Bhagavan, Tulsidas to Bhagavan, Kabir to Bhagavan. So many different kinds of bhaktis. And therefore, we must be familiar with it. So in different phases of our life, different conditions of our life, we will develop this bondage, a fiber to unite with ourselves with the divinity. When you are happy, you will unite. When you are sad, when you are sorrowed, when you are in troubles. So we have different conditions in life. Therefore, the divinity will appear differently for us. Our idea will be about the Ishvara will be different. When you are at the top of your success, at the top of your happiness, at the top of your delight, if you remember God, what will you remember about God? How will you remember the God? Why will you remember the God, if at all you remember? Then in difficulties, how will you remember the God? In utter difficulties, how will you remember the God? In utter harassment, chastisement, how will you remember God? So the bhakti psychology has to be understood. And therefore it says sarva karmana, because we will be doing every kind of karma. Karma while you are happy, karma to be happy, karma while you are sad, karma for sadness to be faced. So we are doing karma of very kind. And then we will see that we have multifaceted bhakti coming up. That's why he says sarva karmana. We have different kinds of activities in different relationships, in different situations, in different scenarios. Let us try to remember the God. The remembrance of God will be different. When you have come in flying colors, success, you never anticipated, expected, but you have got such a success. If you are a theistic person, you will remember the God. How will you remember the God? But suppose you have utterly failed, miserably failed, unexpectedly failed, to an extent that you never imagined. You never imagined that you would fail, but you have failed to an extent that nobody can ever imagine. Still you will remember God. How will you remember the God? The emotion will be different. The mind will be different. The divinity appearing to you, it will be different. When you are in sorrows, harassment, chastisement, how will you remember the God? That's called Artha Bhakta. So Bhagavad Gita also gives classification. Artha, Jignasu, Artharthi, Jnani. There are so many kinds of bhaktas. If you try to read Bhakti Shastra, if you read about bhaktas, which you get in Puranas, Puranas describe so many bhaktas. So we have different states of mind. Sometimes we are successful, sometimes we are failure. How is our idea, notion of Bhagwan? See, when you are in troubles, you will say, "Oh God, save me." Now, what is the God for you? He is a savior. Now, when you are unexpectedly successful and unexpectedly in a delight, If you are going to remember the God, how are you going to remember the God? Oh God, thanks. My ultimate gratitude, complete gratitude to you for what you gave me. I never expected this. I never expected such a delight, such a success, such a happiness. So if you are a theistic person, how will you remember the God? Therefore, let me tell you that in Nama Shastra, there are so many names of Vishnu. Achyuta, Ananta, Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, Vamana, Govinda, Rishikesh, Padmanabha, Damodara, Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. There are 16 names which come in our formal puja vidhi. And then the Spanda Shastra says, vibration, science of vibration says, which name is more suitable when? When to utter Achyuta, when to utter Madhava, when to utter Govinda. So then our frequency will match. It is one deity with all those names. But the Spanda Shastra, the science of vibrations, tells us which name is more suitable. So bhakti is also science. Don't just think it's all emotion, and therefore I wait for that blue moon for my emotion to develop and I start falling in love with God. So the bhakti and bhakta is to be understood. This is implied in understanding Ishwar Pranidhana. So in the Swadhyaya Moksha Shastra Adhyanam means you will come across all this and you will learn so many aspects about Vidhi Bhakti, Vaidhika Bhakti, various kinds of bhaktas. And therefore, you will develop that consciousness where you will think of divinity. So when you are a very, very theistic person, you become a deistic person. You remember God anywhere, anytime. You have sneeze, you say, take the name of God. You cough, you take the name of God. You get up from sitting position, you take the name of God. You sit, you take the name of God. So this habit will be developed. Once you develop bhakti in you, walking, talking, moving, getting up, sitting down, for any action, natural action such as sneezing, coughing, yawning, you will see that there are some people who take name of God for every such natural action. Sneezing and coughing, belching. So these are all some which are metabolic actions taking place. Even they are used to taking the name of the God. And this will happen once you start loving. Because if you love something, you can't forget that person in any aspect of your life and day. You always remember your beloved. So if the Ishvara becomes beloved, you will remember. But then you remember in different states. Because belching state and sneezing state are not one and the same states. Belching means there is perhaps contentment after having eaten up to the brim. But when you are sneezing, it's a different condition. When you are coughing, it's a different condition. When you are sitting to standing, there are different conditions. Standing to sitting, different condition. So, well, there is much to investigate about Ishvara and Pranidhana. You can't just have one form of bhakti, particularly when in a formative period. Once you have become proficient or accomplished bhakta, you have one kind of bhakti. But for us, in Ashtanga level of yoga, we need to understand bhakti, how it manifests spontaneously in different phases of life, different situations in life, different conditions in life, different activities in life. Then only it is possible that Sarva Karmanam Parama Guru Arpanam will be possible. Otherwise, we very, very mundane people, practical minded people, totally sunk in mundanity, we will not remember God everywhere. So find out what is the shortfall for us to reach Ashtanga level sadhaka, that we must be spontaneously, naturally remembering God in every act. We don't remember because many times we say, I have done it. I did it. It's only me who could have done it. So often we are in ego. Ego gravity is so strong. So somewhere it will give us a feeling, understanding that we are not still in the run-up of Ashtanga Yoga. Because here itself, Niyama, which is the Adhamadikari, Sarva Karmanam Paramaguruvarpanam. So, and then Vyasa in the final statement says, Ishwar Pranidhan will make you reveal God. If that doesn't take place for any reason, say such as lack of qualification, we don't have qualification, therefore we do Pranava Japa, we don't realize God. Then Pranava Japa will at least lead towards Pratyak Chetana Adhigamaha, realization of finite self. See, that's why here also you get the understanding, the Ishvara and Pratyak Chetana, the relationship. Because the same Pranava is going to make you realize that. Although Pranava is his nomenclature, is the denoter, is his denoter. It is not our denoter. But ourself is closer to him. So Pranava will give you Pratyak Chetana Adhigamaha. If that too is not possible for same reasons such as lack of qualification, then at least Antaraya, mitigation. To some extent, Antarayas will come in with discounted value. And perhaps later, Antaraya itself will not come. Antarayas will be gone. So see, the Pranidhana goes that long way. If not Ishvara realized, finite self realized. If finite self not realized, Antaraya Abhav will take place, which is so important. So the Ishwar Nama, Pranava or Ishwar Nama comes handy for even countering Antarayas, countering problems, countering obstructions. And here we want the God. Most of us want God for that. That at least our problem should be going away, our difficulties should be going away, our obstructions should be cleared, sanitized. So this is how we look for Ishvara. Ishta Prapti, Anishta Nivrutti, Dhanadhanya Samvrutti. That theistic person in mundanity will look for that, and that's why he'll worship divinity. Well, why divinity was worshipped by Ramdas and Dhaneshwar was not that Ishta Prapti, Anishta Nivrutti, Dhanadhanya Samvrutti, Ayu, Arogya Prapti. No. But we do it. So understand who are we and who were Ramdasas, who were Dhaneshwars. So Ishwar Pranidhan is something that we need to understand in deeper perspective, deeper realm of it. And Sarva Karmanam Parama Guruvarpanam will happen. So this endless topic has to be ended somewhere. So we are ending here. Ishvara is endless topic. Pranidhan is endless topic. See, Ishvara, I will give you last example here. The sun. The sun is the same sun in the sky, which is at 93 billion miles away. But what is the sun to you and me? Between human beings, it is different. The sun is different. Those in tropical region, subtropical region, and then further up toward the pole. What is the sun? What is the rising sun in tropical countries to Scandinavian countries or the polar region? What is the noon sun for tropical countries to Scandinavian countries. It is different. The sun is not different. The sun is the same, at the same distance, with the same characteristics. Whatever heat is radiated, generated, emitted, it is the same. What is the same sun for subhumans? What is the sun for birds and animals and cattle and beasts and insects and worms? And what is the sun for us? The sun doesn't change. But our connectivity with the sun will change. Whether we like or dislike, it will depend upon our condition. Like tropical country people will not like the afternoon sun. Nobody likes afternoon sun in summer in tropical countries. While in subtropical countries, they like the summer sun. The sun is one and the same. But our bhava, our emotion, our bond with the sun changes between likes and dislikes. If we like it, then there will be so many grades of liking it. If we dislike it, there will be so many grades of disliking it. But sun is reality. The constancy of the sun is reality. So Ishvara's constancy is reality. Ishvara is reality. Whether you are atheist or theist, Ishvara is the same. How you relate to Ishvara will depend upon what is your level of theistic mindset. Meager theistic to profusely theistic, who ultimately becomes deistic. So similarly, Ishvara has to be understood. It's not just one description of God. That's why in Upanishads and our Shastra, the God is explained in so many ways, so that it is appealing to, because He is not only God to human beings, He is God to everyone. He is God to everything. He is God to the entire universe. So what appeals to man on the earth is not something that will be appealing to life on another planet, another galaxy. So their appeal will be different. But He is able to satisfy everyone. He has appealing qualities for everyone. Therefore, He has thousands of qualities, infinite qualities, which have appeal for every man. The God is not only for human being, as the modern religions, Abrahamic religions think. They think the God is only for man. The God is for all beings on the planet, on the surface of it, in the oceans of it, and also to extra planetary places, extra galactic places. So it is God for everyone. So how we will have bhava, what is suitable bhava for you and me, depends upon our psyche, our consciousness, our evolvement. So Pranidhan is an enormous subject. And in brief, he says, Uttamadhikari, Ishvara Pranidhana. Madhyamadhikari, Ishvara Pranidhana. Adhamadhikari, Ishvara Pranidhana. And you have to also imply Adhamadhamadhikari, Anadhikari, still Ishvara Pranidhana. So Anadhikari to Adhamadhamadhikari, Adhamadhikari to Adhamadhikari, Adhamadhikari to Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari to Madhyamadhikari to Uttamadhikari, Uttamadhikari to Uttamottamadhikari. These are all implications. When he says this, so many things are said. And see how bhakti will be multifaceted. Anyway, endless subject has to be ended somewhere. So I stop here. Okay.
Yeah, so now we have seen the yamas and the niyamas. Now, other thing to see is we have seen Guruji, and Guruji is well known as somebody having high discipline. But when you look at his writings, when he says discipline or self-discipline, he is primarily referring to the yamas and the niyamas. So he says that the niyamas encompassed by Kriya Yoga emphasize the importance of self-discipline. So when Guruji says discipline, it is very different from what is normally referred to as discipline in normal worldly life. So that you have to bear in mind in the context of learning yama and niyama. And all of this was very evident in the Guruji's life and daily life and thinking. Now, the secondly, very interestingly, he has said that niyamas, and in the context of Swadhyaya in particular, he says it is about checking oneself to see if the principles of yoga are being followed. And in order to follow these principles, one has to decide whether one's own pattern of behavior is aligned with them or not. And if not, one has to prepare one's thoughts and actions in according to them and remove those faults which hinder one's sadhana. So the Swadhyaya and Yama Niyama in general is about keeping a check on oneself, and that is where the discipline is also coming as to whether the fabric of yoga is being followed or not. And that is how he has brought this out for everybody, for the world to understand Yama and Niyama in this context. Then he also, since we talked about God and so on right now, he also brings this in the context of religion. In fact, in the context of Yama Niyama, he asks what in fact is true religion. He says it is eternal and has no denominations or boundaries. And in his characteristic way, he brings this out for everybody, whatever their faith following, for the world as a whole. He says it is a method knowingly designed to lift each individual's awareness so that he may experience the vision of the core of his being, Atma Darshana. So this, again, today we saw Pratyak Chetanadhigamo. So this Pratyak Chetanadhigamaha is what Guruji is bringing out as that is the true religion. It sustains the sadhaka's development and prevents his downfall. Again, the Vidinisheda aspect of Yama Niyama is coming here. And it says it lifts him when he slips. In short, says Guruji, religion is the means to self-realization. So you can see how beautifully the interpretation of Yama Niyama to current times and for people from various different cultures and backgrounds is coming out in the way Guruji is bringing it out. And also to note that when Guruji used the term discipline, or when people said that he was very disciplined, how to understand that discipline requires an understanding of what Yama and Niyama is. The other correlation that Guruji has interestingly drawn is the correspondence between Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanam and the 5 tattvas, Prithvi, Aap, Tej, Vayu, Akasha. So what's referred to in English as earth element, water element, fire element, air element, and the ether element, so to speak. So the Shaucha, which is about external and internal cleanliness, so to speak, and the purification of the very fabric. That the fabric material and the purification of that, Guruji draws a parallel with the Prithvi Tattva. Then the Aap Tattva with Santosha, which of course he doesn't elaborate, but you can see the rasa aspect which comes in Santosha. And Guruji also associates the water element and the physiological aspects there. So that Santosha from within, which from a functioning aspect refers to the physiological organs, but from a rasa aspect refers to the Santosha. He draws a parallel with the Aap Tattva. Tapa, of course, can be definitely, Tapa means heat, Teja is the fire element, and it needs a certain fervor. So the tapas is associated by Guruji with fire. The Vayu Tattva, which has extreme high Vega, speed, and reach, Prapti, with the Swadhyaya. Because with Swadhyaya, once the reach in terms of the what is known as Jnana Prakasha grows and can reach anywhere with whatever speed or Vega that is required. So that is associated, Guruji has associated that with Vayu. And the ethereal aspect with Ishvara Pranidhanam. So that's another very interesting pointer that Guruji has given with correlation between the niyamas and the panchatattvas. Okay. So with that, we end on this particular sutra on the niyamas. So let's recite the shlokas on Guruji and stop for today. वैज्ञानिकं प्रवक्तृत्व आसनेषु कलाविदं योगाभ्यासे च तत्त्वज्ञं वन्देऽहं सुन्दरं गुरुं योगवृक्षो हि लोकेऽस्मिन् यत्प्रेरणेन वर्धितः योगाचार्यगुरो तुभ्यं सुन्दराय नमो नमः. Thank you.
Namaskar.